Don't look very amused, do I, guys? He chopped a bit of my hair off. And you know why? Because I had a bit of chewing gum stuck in it and I didn't realise, and I went to the dentist like it. What's happening, guys, before my dad chops any more hair off me? It's actually a nice day. I don't even know what I'm doing. What are you making?
Focus hair, you cut the
Yeah, you cut my hair off, didn't you?
Only that bit. Cut your something off.
Oh, ew, I don't want to cut anything else off. That's my, Ooh, got nice bacon.
Yeah, nice one.
And put a bit of ketchup all over
I'll
it.
get it over to you, yeah.
Oh, wait, before we go, do you want to say hi to Sally? Hello to Sally, guys. You've been sunbathing yourselves? I can't sunbathe, I've got no skin. Have to cook with that. So what did we do today?
Visited the dentist.
Yeah, had to get my 2 teeth sorted out.
She married a manicurist, and so they've been fighting tooth and nail ever since.
I don't even know what that means, but oh good, this camera's gonna fall off. How about we explain what we got? I'm gonna get a gum short next week as well, so everyone's gonna have to know that now. Some nice butter on the bread, and Sally being all cute, being a little banana. Alright, well let's leave cute Sal's alone and random Gina's wife, imagination. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Right, let's do a bit of reading. Oh, Dad, come sit with me. This is cute. Why not? Hello, guys. Imagination here. I'm having a bacon sandwich. I'm going to read this to you. Should we do a bit of reading? Story time with Gina. Literally, story time with Gina. And I'm also going to find, well, show you things I found in the charity shop. Let's go. I wonder if you've ever lost your best friend, the friend you've known. What? That's a typo in the second sentence. Okay, look guys, I'm not joking. No. Anyway, carry on. The friend you've known ever since you were little. The friend that's closer than a sister, more fun than any brother. Maybe she lives on the other side of town and goes to a different school. Maybe she's moved right away to a different part of the country and you can't even meet up at weekends and even in the holidays. Maybe your best friend is still living nearby but you've had a quarrel and she's gone off with another girl now and she won't even speak to you. Dad, can you not burp while I'm reading? Is that like your agreement burp, like you understand? Grown-ups often don't understand how devastating this can be. Even the kindest mums and dads will just give you a quick cuddle and then say, well, cheer up, you'll find a new best friend to no time. Sometimes, wonderfully, they're right. A new girl comes to the school and you hit it off straight away within weeks. You're doing your homework together and confiding in all sorts of secrets and having sleepovers at each other's houses. But sometimes grown-ups can be 100% wrong. It isn't always easy to find new best friends. How many of you guys can relate? Everyone at their school has their own circle of friends and you just can't barge in and be part of the gang. Someone might be especially kind and try to be friendly. I try to write about this situation as truthfully as possible in Best Friends. But I promise this isn't a sad book, there are lots of funny bits. My all-time favourite boy character, Biscuits, pops up in this story. I love writing about him in Cliffhanger and Buried Alive. He's such a cheerful, good-hearted boy. And well, we discover in Best Friends that he can make wonderful cakes too. But this is really the story of Gemma and Alice. Shall I tell you how I got their names? One day at a big book signing, 2 little girls came up to me and announced together, we're best friends. I'm just to start writing a story about best friends, I said. Haven't chosen their names yet. What are you two called? Gemma and Alice, they said. Okay, that's what I'll call the girls in my new book, I said, and I'll keep my promise. I do hope the real Gemma and Alice have read the book. I still hope. Best Friends. Hey guys, how's it going? Imagination here. I did a previous vlog just now, but I'm motivated to make another one for you. Guys, I'm gonna be reading you a story. Just thinking this is like some sort of ASMR thing or to relax you or unwind, or if you want to hear my voice. And so I've got a lot of people saying to me that my voice is calming. So if you just want to read a book, then also recommend me some and I'll shall read them to you and I hope you enjoy. Today we're going to be reading this. What I picked up from my charity shop and I thought it would be a good little storybook to read. Mr. Stink by David Walliams. From my mum Kathleen, the kindest person I have ever met. Thank yous. Once again, Quentin Blake has honoured my writing with my sublime illustrations, and to him I am enormously grateful. I still can't quite believe I have collaborated with him, and he is such a legend. Other people who I would like to thank are Mario Santos and Anjanine Murtagh at HarperCollins for believing me in once again. Nick Lake, my editor, deserves a big thank you for making me work so hard and taking me out for tea and cakes. The copy editor, Alex Anshaw, cover designer. Do you know what? Shall we just skip this and get right into the story? I think we shall. Number 1. Scratch and sniff. Mr. Stink stank. He also stunk. And if it is correct English to say he stinked, then he stinks as well. What? He was also the stinkiest stinker who ever lived. A stink is the worst type of smell. A stink is worse than a stench. And a stench is worse than a pong. And a pong is worse than a whiff. Worse than a whiff. And a whiff can be enough to make your nose wrinkle. It wasn't Mr. Stink's fault that he stank. He was a tramp, after all. He didn't have a home, and so he never had the opportunity to have a proper wash like you and me. After a while, it just got worse and worse. Here is a picture of Mr. Stink. I shall probably insert some pictures here too. But yeah, that's him right there, guys. He is quite a snappy dresser in his bow tie and tweed jacket, isn't he? But don't be fooled. The illustration doesn't do justice to the smell. This could be a scratch and sniff book, but the smell would be so bad you would have to put it in the bin, and then bury the bin very deep underground. This is his little black dog with him, the Duchess. The Duchess wasn't any particular breed of dog, she was just a dog. She smelt too, but not as bad as Mr. Stink. Nothing in the world really smelt as bad as him, except his beard. His beard was full of old bits of egg and sausage and cheese that had fallen out of his mouth years before. It had never ever been shampooed, so it had its own special stink, even worse than his main one. And this actually reminds me that this was read to me in primary school, so that's why I love it so much. And actually I might speak to one of my old teachers if I can read some of her books, because her books are really interesting and really inspirational. So yeah, that might be, if you enjoy what I'm up to at the moment, give a thumbs up, comment down below, and I'll see what I can do. One morning, Mr. Stink simply appeared in the town and took up residence on an old wooden bench. No one knew where he came from or where he might be going. The town folk were mostly nice to him. They sometimes dropped a few coins at his feet before rushing off with their eyes watering. No one was really friendly. No one stopped for a chat. At least, not to the day that a little girl finally plucked up the courage to speak to him. And that's where our story begins. "Hello," said the girl, her voice trembling a little with nerves. The girl was called Chloe. She was only 12 and she had never spoken to a tramp before. Her mother had forbidden her to speak to such creatures. Mother even disapproved of her daughter talking to kids from the local council estate. But Chloe didn't think Mr. Stink was a creature. She thought he was a man who looked like he had a very interesting story to tell. And if there was one thing Chloe loved, it was stories, and so do we. Every day she would pass him and his dog in her parents' car on the way to her posh private school. Whether in sunshine or snow, he was always sitting on the same bench with his dog by his feet, as she luxuriated on the level of the back seat with her poisonous little sister Annabelle. Chloe would look out the window at him and wonder. Millions of thoughts and questions would swim through her head. Who was he? Why did he live on the streets? Had he ever had a home? What did his dog eat? Did he have any friends or family? If so, did they know he was homeless? Where did he go at Christmas? If you wanted to write him a letter, what address would you put on the envelope? The bench, you know, the one round the corner from the bus stop. When was the last time he had a bath? And could his name really be Mr. Stink? Chloe was the kind of girl who loved being alone with her thoughts. I think we both do. #relate. Often she would sit on her bed and make up stories about Mr. Stink. Sitting on her own in her room, she would come up with all kinds of fantastical roles. Maybe Mr. Stink was a heroic old sailor who had won dozens of medals of bravery, but I found it impossible to adapt to life on dry land. Or perhaps he was a world famous opera singer who one night, upon hitting the top note in an area at the Royal Opera House in London, lost his voice and could never sing again. Or maybe he was a really Russian secret agent who had put on an elaborated tramp disguise to spy on the people of the town. Chloe didn't know anything about Mr. Stink, but what she did know on that day when she stopped to talk to him for the first time was that he looked like he needed the £5 note she was holding much more than she did. He seemed lonely too. Not just alone, but lonely in his soul. That made Chloe sad. She knew full well what it was like to feel lonely. Chloe didn't like school very much. Mother had insisted on sending her to a posh all-girls secondary school. She hadn't made any friends there. Chloe didn't like being at home much either. Wherever she was, she had the feeling she didn't quite fit in. So relatable to Chloe right now. Chloe, I so understand you. Anyway, let's carry on. What's more, it was Chloe's least favourite time of year, Christmas. Everyone is supposed to love Christmas, especially children. But Chloe hated it. She hated the tinsel, she hated the crackers, she hated the carols, she hated having to watch the Queen's speech, she hated the mince pies, she hated that it never really snowed like it's supposed to. She hated sitting down with her family to a long dinner, and most of all, she hated how she had to pretend to be happy just because it was December 25th. And guys, let me tell you, I did not have a great Christmas. Well, I did have a great Christmas. I was with my family, and you know, we had a lot of fun, but inside of myself, I just felt lonely and down, and I don't know why. It was one of the worst months I had last year. But anyway, guys, let's carry on being positive, and I hope you enjoy my reading. And if you're still here watching me, thank you very much. Okay, let's do this. What can I do for you, young lady? Said Mr. Stink, his voice unexpectedly posh. No one had ever stopped to talk to him before. He stared slightly suspiciously at this plump little girl. Chloe was suddenly a bit frightened. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to talk to the old tramp after all. She had been working up to this moment for weeks, even months even. This wasn't how it had all played out in her head. To make matters worse, Chloe had to stop breathing through her nose. The smell was starting to get to her. It was like a living thing, creeping its way up her nostrils and burning the back of her throat. Well, sorry to bother you. Yes, Mr. Stink said, a little impatient. Chloe was taken back. Why was he in such a hurry? He always sat on this bench. It wasn't like he suddenly needed to go into somewhere else. At that moment, the Duchess started barking at her. Chloe felt even more scared. Sensing this, Mr. Stink pulled the Duchess' lead, which was really just a bit of old rope, to encourage her to be quiet. Well, Chloe went on nervously, my auntie sent me £5 to buy myself a Christmas present, but I don't really need anything, so I thought I would give it to you. That's what I was like when I made all these sandwiches on my course, and I didn't eat them all, and I gave them away to a homeless guy that was sitting outside at the station. Mr. Stink smiled. Chloe smiled too. For a moment it looked as if he was going to accept Chloe's offer. Then he looked down at the pavement. You see that, guys? Yeah, that's them. I hope I'm not boring you guys. Thank you, he said. Unimaginable. Yeah, unimaginable, but I can't take it, sorry. Chloe was confused. Why ever not? She asked. You are but a child. £5? It's too generous. I just thought it's really kind of you, but I'm afraid I can't accept. Tell me, how old are you, young lady? 10? 12, said Chloe loudly. She was a little short for her age, but liked to think she was grown up in lots of other ways. I'm 12, 13 on January the 9th. Happy birthday, fictional Chloe. Happy belated birthday, fictional Chloe. Sorry, you're 12, nearly 13. Go and buy yourself one of those new musical stereo discs. Don't you worry about an old vagabond like me. He smiled. There was a real twinkle in his eye when he smiled. If it's not too rude, said Chloe, can I ask you a question? Yes, of course you can. Well, I would love to know, why do you live on a bench and not in a house like me? Mr. Stink shuffled slightly and looked anxious. It's a long story, my dear, he said. Maybe I will tell you another day. Chloe was disappointed. She wasn't sure there would be another day. If her mother found out that she was even talking to this man, let alone offering him money, she would do her nuts. Well, sorry for bothering you, said Chloe. Have a lovely day. As the words came out, she cringed. What a stupid thing to say. How could he possibly have a lovely day? He was a smelly old tramp, and the sky was growing gloomy with black clouds. She took a few paces up the street, feeling embarrassed. You know, I always used to read to my toys, and I'm like 23 now, and I still do. What's that on your back, child? Called out Mr. Stink. What's on my back? Asked Chloe, trying to look over her shoulder. She reached round and tore a piece of paper from her blazer. She peered at it. Written on a piece of paper in thick black letters was a single word: loser. Chloe felt her stomach twist with humiliation. Rosamond must have sellotaped it to her when she left school. Rosamond was the head girl of the cool gang. She was always bullying Chloe. We hate bullies, don't we? I was bullied in school. and college, picking on her for eating too many sweets, or for being poorer than the other girls at school, or for being the girl neither team ever wanted on their side in hockey matches. As Chloe had left today, Rosamund patted her on the back several times saying Merry Christmas, but all the other girls laughed. Now Chloe knew why. Mr. Stink rose quickly from his bench and took the paper from Chloe's hands. I can't believe I've been going around school with that on my back all afternoon, said Chloe. Embarrassed to feel tears welling up, she looked away, blinking into the sunlight. Aw, poor Chloe. What is it, child? Asked Mr. Stink kindly. Chloe sniffed. Well, she said, it's true, isn't it? I really am a loser. Mr. Stink bent down to look at her. No. Authoritatively, you're not a loser. The real loser is the person who stuck it to you in the first place. Chloe tried to believe him, but couldn't quite. For as long as she could remember, she had felt like a loser. Maybe bullying girl, let's call her that. Maybe bullying girl and all those other girls in her gang were right. There's only one place for this, said Mr. Stink. He screwed up the piece of paper and, like a professional cricketer, expertly bowled it into the bin. Chloe clocked this and her imagination instantly started whirring. Had he once been captain of the England cricket team? Mr. Stink brushed his hands together. Good riddance, that bad rubbish, he said. Thanks, murmured Chloe. Not at all, said Mr. Stink. You mustn't let bullies get you down. I'll try, said Chloe. Nice to meet you, Mr. She began. Everyone called him Mr. Stink, but she didn't know if he knew that. It felt rude to say it to his face. Stink, he said. They call me Mr. Stink. Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Stink. I'm Chloe. Hello, Chloe, said Mr. Stink. You know, Mr. Stink, said Chloe. I still might go to the shops. Do you need anything, like a bar of soap or something? Thank you, my dear, he replied. But I have no use for soap. You see, I had a bath only last year, but I would love some sausages. I do adore a nice meaty sausage. I'm not going to say anything, guys. This is child friendly. I really hate growing up. It's such... The more I've grown up, the more my mind's become really not toxic. Actually, it has. But a bit... insinuous. I don't know what the word is, but I See Silence, chapter 2. I don't know when I'm going to stop, but I might just carry on for a few chapters, and if I feel like that's enough, then I'll end it. But let's carry on. If you want to stay and continue to carry on and carry on listening to me and whatever, then leave a thumbs up, let me know how the story's going so far, and yeah, let's do this.